Hello and welcome to ITV News Meridian.
Tonight's headlines in the southeast. This month's rail strike, unions say the region will be hit hard, but they had no choice. Commuters say it's not fair.
Personally, I think it's quite outrageous. The chaps earn very good money and it just disrupts the country when we least need it, I'm afraid.
And it's no easier by road. To fill up an average family car now costs almost £100 for a tank full. We hear how some businesses are really struggling.
Also this Wednesday evening, care homes in the southeast, how the sector's fighting back to hold on to the workers they need.
And the dancing moves that wowed the viewers. We're with the Five Star Boys in Kent and hear how they took on the bullies. Good evening. Union leaders are warning tonight that the biggest rail strike since the 1980s will shut down the train network later this month unless the government comes up with new proposals.
Downing Street has branded the RMT selfish after the union promised a sustained campaign of industrial action with 3 24-hour walkouts due to start in less than 2 weeks' time.
It's all over a dispute about job security, pay freezes and pensions. Let's go live to London Victoria Station, one of the busiest stations for Kent and Sussex commuters, and our reporter Kit Bradshaw. Kit, these strikes were announced yesterday, but it's only today that we've got a real sense of just how severe the disruption might be.
Yes, that's right. Some are warning it could be the biggest transport strike for a generation. Some 40,000 RMT members walking out over 3 days. So if you rely on the train, the dates for your diary are Tuesday the 21st, Thursday the 23rd and Saturday the 25th of June. And because they're spread out over the week like that, there's a warning that disruption could last up to 7 days. The RMT says that its members have enjoyed pay freezes at a time that the cost of living is soaring.
Inflation is going through the roof and nobody can afford to carry on like this. What we're saying is we want to be a proper public service. Take us properly into the public domain. Make sure railway workers have got job security and are well paid. And let's cut fares for passengers.
Kit, not all rail staff are involved. What are the companies saying about the likely disruption?
Yes, 13 train companies involved across the country. In our region, the likes of South Western, Greater Anglia, C2C and South Eastern, a lot of its trains terminate here. That company says most of its routes and stations will be closed on the strike days. No rail replacement buses. The message from them is do not plan to travel by train. But also some of the companies where staff didn't vote for strike action also impacted. GTR, which runs Southern and Gatwick Express and Thameslink, says they'll be severely disrupted. That's because Network Rail signallers are also walking out. One transport group says there's still time to call the whole thing off.
Leisure travel has come back very strongly, as many people know. Commuting is slightly different. People aren't necessarily commuting quite as often as they did. But that's not a reason to have this huge disruption. I mean, yes, let's get back round the table, negotiate and reduce or remove even, if we've got time, the impact on passengers.
As you'd imagine, lots of different opinions on the commute home. Here's what some passengers heading back to Kent and Sussex told me a little earlier.
Personally, I think it's quite outrageous. The chaps earn very good money and it just disrupts the country when we least need it, I'm afraid.
My husband's organised a big event bringing schools in from all over the country on those days, so he's absolutely not impressed.
Because I live in the country, I don't really have any other options, so I've just come off a train now. And without the trains, I wouldn't be here.
If they want a pay rise, there'll be something on taxes, probably.
It shouldn't affect me too badly because of this new flexible way of working. But people who have to come into work physically, it could be quite chaotic.
Network Rail says it's doing everything it can to avoid the strike with more talks planned. The RMT says it's determined to win a fair settlement for its members.
Kit, live at Victoria, thank you.
Well, that's what could lie ahead on the railways, but travelling by car might not be the solution either. The average cost of filling a typical family saloon reached an all-time high today, nearly £100 for a tank full.
Suzanne Wild, a care home manager from Whitstable, has told ITV Meridian her staff can no longer afford to get to people's homes and are beginning to leave.
Sarah Saunders reports on how small and independent businesses are coping with the ever-rising forecourt prices.
I've really slowed down. I mean, not that I was ever over the speed limit, it's just for 30, I'm finding myself doing 20. just because I can see on my mileometer that my petrol goes up rather than down. It's absolutely crazy.
The car is crucial to Suzanne Wild. She runs a business providing care to older people in their own homes.
£10 in, I had 200 miles and I've just put in £10 and it's given me 36.
Surging fuel prices mean it's becoming too expensive for many of her staff to reach the people they support across Whitstable, Herne Bay and Canterbury.
We need our vehicles. We can't get to the people that we need to go and see without having a car. It simply is impossible. Staff leaving, staff cutting their hours, it's just impacted massively.
Consumers are also faced with large fluctuations in price. These petrol stations in Rochester and Bearsted are charging around 17p higher than the national average for petrol and 8p more than the national average for diesel. Richard Stebbing's petrol costs have risen by more than 50% in 1 year. He's had to raise prices for his taxi business, Kent Airport Cars.
But there will come a limit where customers won't accept higher and higher prices. So what the government's going to be able to do about fuel tax, I don't know.
What do you want them to do?
I think what would be fair is, whilst this is going on, dropping VAT, dropping fuel by 20% instead of the 5p that's been taken off would be very helpful.
Fair Fuel UK agree, and they want the government to introduce regulation.
In the spring statement, we got a welcome 5p cut in fuel duty. We were delighted with that, and with the 20% on top of that, the VAT, that makes 6p. But 6p cut wasn't seen at any one of our supporters when they went to the garages. No one saw it at all. It wasn't passed on. Why wasn't that? Because the government didn't police it, and that I blame them.
Today, the government indicated it could name and shame retailers who failed to pass on duty cuts to motorists. Sarah Saunders, ITV News.
Well, Sarah touched on the issue of carers in her report there. We're going to come back to that a little later in the programme. But meanwhile, the cost of charging electric vehicles in Brighton is set to rise. It's being blamed on increased energy prices. Lamppost and car park charging will go up by 50% this month. The council says prices are still cheaper than for a petrol car, and also points out that greener vehicles don't have to pay emission or congestion charges.
A judge's decision on whether life support is removed from a 12-year-old boy is expected to be delayed until Friday. Archie Battersby from Southend was found at home in April unconscious. His parents say they're praying for miracles as they fight to keep the treatment continuing. The High Court has heard that parts of his brain have died.
A fire at a derelict cinema in Kent could have been started deliberately. Firefighters were called to the Regent in Deal yesterday afternoon. There were no reported injuries, but the fire is being treated as suspicious.
The Prime Minister says he wants to take some of the pressure off the South East, which he says has been overburdened by new housing developments for decades.
Well, he was responding to an MP from Kent who asked him to intervene to stop a controversial new project in the Medway towns. Well, let's go live to our political correspondent Phil Hornby. Phil, housing becoming a hot political topic?
Yes, it certainly is, Matt. The government's first attempt at reforming the planning system so lots more houses could be built was junked. So many Tory MPs, mostly from the South East, were bitterly opposed to it. The government have come up with some watered-down proposals now where they say local people will get more say. Nevertheless, MPs from across the South East are angry that there are too many developments, too often, they say, in the wrong place.
Rochester and Strood is facing unrealistic housing targets, putting pressure on the council to bring forward a local plan that would close successful working docks and the loss of beloved open spaces such as Deangate Ridge, all in the name of meeting an arbitrary target. Can my right honourable friend assure my constituents who are facing this level of overdevelopment that there will be greater flexibility on housing numbers so that the council can produce a local plan that delivers the appropriate housing but protects important sites like these?
Well, the government's answer to this, as to so many things, seems to be levelling up. They say make the north a more attractive place for people to move to, and fewer people will want to move to the southeast.
Part of the merit, the genius of levelling up, Mr. Speaker, is that it will encourage us to take some of the pressure, some of the heat out of the southeast of England, which has been overburdened for decades, and we can do it.
The Prime Minister in action in the Commons there earlier, Phil. Let's go back to that confidence vote on Monday. Was it business as usual for Mr Johnson today?
Well, he would like to think so, and he certainly came out fighting at Prime Minister's questions today, but the pressure is still very much on him. He's desperate to change the subject. He'll be doing that tomorrow with a speech in the north of England about the cost of living. The Chancellor will be making a big speech about it as well. The government desperate to move on from confidence votes and Partygate, but it ain't going away.
I'm sure it isn't for the time being. Phil, thank you very much indeed. Now, this week we've been investigating drug use in the southeast, and tonight we've a fascinating insight into a pioneering programme that turns the tide of drug use in one seaside town.
Yes, Project Adder started in Hastings just over a year ago. One of 13 areas to receive £5 million of targeted government support because of high rates of substance misuse.
In this exclusive report, James Dunham's been discovering how Adder is not just targeting criminal gangs, but also changing lives.
So on the side there's a Cadbury's drinking chocolate tub.
Class A products hidden in household items.
A wrap, a large wrap.
Among more than 5,000 crack, cocaine and heroin wraps seized.
Police! Police!
Properties have been stormed, 103 people arrested. Targeting dealers and taking supplies off the street, just one part of Project Adder.
So we will just go down towards the seafront of St Leonard's.
We're out with PC Ramplin and PCSO Henneke on their unique patrol. They reflect how Project Adder aims to build supportive relationships between known drug users and the police.
They see us 6 days a week, we're always there, and we're trying to break down that boundary so that they can see us as normal human beings. We're not here to
familiar face, really.
Yeah, so we're not here to arrest every single person. You know, that's not what we're doing.
Instead, their meet and greet beat involves checking in on people who are being supported by Adder, making sure they are attending their appointments and health checkups.
Have they been helping you?
So you've just spoken to one group over there. What difference does that contact make, do you think, in their recovery?
I think it's just having that constant contact, that same face that they see all the time. They do know us by name, we know all of them by name.
I do enjoy and look forward coming in to speak to them, you know, have our daily chats. It's something I do look forward to on my shifts, and they are great people. You all right, how you doing?
We've got a film crew.
Yeah.
We're brought to the hub of Adder, a welcoming space where many take steps to recovery. Ian is responsible for the care here.
And we felt that we wanted a space that they could come into and feel safe and relaxed. So we set up different areas. So just here we have couches, try and make it like a front room. So the TV's normally on, but turned it off for yourselves. We have a cafe area over there. You know, a lot of our clients, they live on the streets. They live in that chaos. And we just want them to walk through the door and just take a breath.
70 clients are currently receiving support through the project. Here they're being dealt new opportunities and skills.
Quite often when you're using and that, you don't relax, you don't know how to.
In 3 months, Adder's helped Sophia get on a college course as she focuses on her own personal growth.
I've kind of spent a lot of time on my own or with other users that aren't, you know, necessarily looking to try and make changes. So it's nice to be around other people with the similar mindset, trying to do the same thing, and to also meet new friends, because when you're trying to get clean, obviously you need to cut off the circle of people that you were hanging about with.
So this is the Brooker Alpha 2, which we're going to use to help identify a suspected controlled drug.
This revolutionary piece of kit is key to helping cut off supplies. The only device of its kind within Sussex Police, funded through Adder. It's about to test what's thought to be cocaine.
We just take out enough of the product just to cover. There's a little diamond plate there on the sampling screen. Normally, full forensic analysis would take weeks.
Whereas with this, it's instantaneous. So not only do we know what it is, we can also find out what's in it. Because you don't have to send it off for analysis all the time, you can potentially keep people in custody straight away and get them to court as soon as possible.
Within seconds, we receive a result.
So the top hit there that's coming back is cocaine.
A tiny fragment of the 7 kilos of cocaine that's been seized by police.
Have you seen people who rely on drugs actually finding that there is a reduced supply here in Hastings?
Yeah, and we've seen it through some of the phone downloads as well, where people have said actually don't come to Hastings, there's too many police around, or it's really hard to get drugs in Hastings at the moment, and that's through the increased patrols that we've got out there.
With some of the highest rates of drug deaths in the country, receiving £5 million of government funding through Project Adder was not an achievement. However, it is delivering success, breaking the vicious cycle of substance misuse hanging over this seaside town. James Dunham, ITV News, Hastings.
You are watching ITV News here in the Meridian region. Coming up, tackling the bullies and wowing the judges. One of the Britain's Got Talent finalists tells us how getting to the top was not all plain sailing.
And we head to the Broadfield Stadium to hear from Crawley Town's new manager.
Stay with us for that. And remember, for more on all of our stories from right across the southeast, please go to our website, itv.com/Meridian. You can call us on 0808 1010 095. And remember, you can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram.
Now, the care sector is having to deal with a huge shortage of workers in the southeast. Last year, it's estimated almost 7% of roles in adult social care were vacant.
Well, the industry has always had a high turnover of staff, but it's been especially hard hit recently by factors such as the pandemic and Brexit, as well as low pay, which mean many care companies are struggling to retain staff. In our second report on the care exodus, Kevin Ashford has been looking at what the sector is doing to encourage workers.
Enjoy a little bit of sunshine.
Staffing isn't a problem at this care home in Uckfield in East Sussex, but the manager says she's very aware that other homes are struggling.
I have my ear very closely to the ground with my colleagues in the same field, and I think the issue is there isn't agency staff to be able to grab hold of. They don't just appear, and as I said, if you get a pandemic outbreak, there's not a whoosh of staff that's going to come running in the door.
According to figures from one industry body, an estimated 6.7% of roles in adult social care in the southeast were vacant last year. That's equivalent to 15,000 vacancies being advertised on an average day.
Do we get a prize?
Stephanie Lee began working in the care industry 3 years ago. She's now reached manager level. Stephanie says the work can be hard, but highly rewarding.
It can be anything from just helping a resident out, maybe dealing with their finances, helping them see what kind of benefits they can be, just to sitting with them and having a cup of coffee.
To encourage others into care work, the not-for-profit care provider that runs this home, as well as 20,000 other properties, is setting up a care worker academy. It's the first of its kind. It'll offer a 2-year course to help care workers get into care sector management.
Sometimes there's a misconception that care work is a role that people fall into, but we want to turn that on its head and show people you can have a very long and successful career. Care is a vocation, but it really is a career too, and we want to professionalise care work.
The government says it'll be investing £5.4 billion to reform adult social care over the next 3 years, which it says will help boost the sector's ability to recruit and retain staff, improve learning and development, and better support mental health and well-being. The government also eased visa requirements at the beginning of the year for care workers coming from overseas to try to alleviate the pressure on the social care system. Kevin Ashford, ITV News.
And the ITV Evening News continues here at 6:30. Here's Mary Nightingale.
Coming up on the programme, horrible housing, the government's new reforms to crack down on lousy landlords and hellish social homes. But will they work? We hear the shocking account of a survivor of the Texas school shooting as calls for gun reform grow. Here, more problems with planes, trains and on the road. We will have all the latest. And arise Sir David Attenborough again as he gets a second knighthood. So do join me for those stories and much more at 6:30.
Now, after a turbulent few months at Crawley Town, there's hope for supporters for next season with a new manager.
Yes, former Arsenal under-23s head coach Kevin Betsy was introduced to the media today. Joe Caution is at the Broadfield Stadium for us this evening. An exciting day for the club, Joe.
Yes, absolutely, Matt. Kevin Betsy's unveiling is the start of a fresh, new and exciting chapter for Crawley Town after what has been a pretty troubled season for the Reds. Now, Betsy will be used to watching on from the dugout, watching his side play in red, as of course he used to manage Arsenal's under-23 side. But it wasn't just the kit colours that convinced him to come to Broadfield. It was the new owner's vision for the club that ultimately convinced him.
Speaking to the owners, real clear idea of how they wanted to take the club forward. Many of their ideas and vision aligned with mine in terms of if I was going to take a job at my first role in senior management, what that would look like. Preston and Eben were really committed to trying to bring me here, you know, and they were the research that they went into in terms of finding out about myself and my background and the level of qualities that I would bring to the football club was immense.
Positivity from the new manager then, Joe. What about the new owners? We've spoken to them today as well.
Yes, that's right, Matt. They're known as WAGME United and they are crypto businessmen. Now, Preston Johnson, one of the new co-owners, told us why he wanted to take over the club and most importantly, told us what WAGME stands for.
Everyone that we met that was in Crawley has this kind of like tight-knit family sense that we really appreciated despite it being the smallest club in the EFL, or at least one of them, or near the bottom, right? And there's like this story or this narrative of being an underdog. And that's kind of like where we come from in my background and in crypto or whatever it may be is, you know, we're all about the underdog story and inclusivity. WAGME United is what everyone keeps hearing. It's our like ownership group name, but WAGME literally stands for we're all gonna make it. And so like that's part of it. And the staff here, they wanted to be a part of that mission with us.
Well, it could be a little bit of time before we see Crawley Town climbing up the League 2 table. They're rank outsiders for the title next season, about 40-1. But a promising project, and I'm sure most supporters will be keen to get behind them.
Yes, indeed, Joe. Thank you very much indeed for the time being. And I like the motto as well, we're going to make it, and it could also apply to our next story as well. The five-star boys wowed the judges at Britain's Got Talent in the final at the weekend.
Bo Stiliano, the oldest member of the group, is now back in Herne Bay and limbering up for his next competition. As he told our reporter Tony Green, it hasn't been all plain sailing.
Their moves carried them all the way to the final of one of the biggest shows on TV. Five-star boys won viewers' hearts with their dancing skills and bullying backstory. They couldn't have come closer to victory on Sunday, with judges praising their performance.
You haven't just been heroes for one day, you've been heroes throughout this entire season of Britain's Got Talent, so well done.
But there can only be one winner, and it wasn't them. Now back in Herne Bay, how was the oldest member Bo feeling about that?
I'm feeling good.
He's feeling good.
It feels so surreal, I actually can't believe it, and I think it's only just settling in. Getting to the final, none of us expected it, and when we did, I think you could see on our faces that none of us expected it. It was just the most amazing experience, and I wish it could all just happen again.
Five-star boys met at a dance convention. Their profile has given them a platform.
We got involved to raise awareness for boys who dance too, because it's not always easy for us.
What are the issues?
A lot of the time just get bullied, and it's not a nice experience when it's mainly girls at the studio and you never really get to mix with other male dancers.
Do you think that you've actually achieved something to help change that situation?
Yeah, I've gotten a lot of messages saying, oh, you've helped me really start to enjoy dancing much more. It makes me feel like I've actually done something in this world.
That bullying is something teacher Paul Tracy can relate to.
As a male teacher especially, seeing one of your male students going off and being an ambassador for the next generation of the male dancers is incredible, and I'm so proud of him. That message that they gave out, and watching that TV show, one little boy will sit there at home and they won't be so worried about trying dancing.
Mum Mona has been with Bo every step of the way.
When he first started doing street dance competitions, I wasn't expecting him to be as good as he was. I was surprised, and I think that's when I saw it. But it's the passion that he has for it that really pushes through. And he does things he wants to do. I'm not pushing him to do things. He's the one going, I want to go to that competition, or I want to try that class. It's all come from him.
This 12-year-old has already achieved a lot. And thanks to his example, there may well be more boys following in his footsteps. Tony Green, ITV News, Herne Bay.
Fantastic dancers, and what great role models, and we need more of them, don't we?
Yeah, just great to see the positivity that they didn't win, but what they can do with that achievement.
Exactly,
Just
great. And so young, Bo. We don't think you're the oldest member from Herne Bay, not at all. You're a young man. Let's find out what the weather is doing now with all your details tonight. Here's Helen Plint.
Feels like home, whatever the weather. Valent Boilers and Heat Pumps sponsors ITV Meridian Weather.
Hello again, a very good evening to you. Well, those downpours coming thick and fast for many this afternoon, but we've at least had plenty of sunshine as well, and generally things tend to improve as we track towards the weekend. So in the short term, those showers easing this evening, a drier day generally tomorrow, but potentially with a bit more cloud for some. However, that sunshine will make a good return by Friday and beyond. So this is a look then at the bigger picture. Our next low pressure system swings into view. This is actually the remnants of Tropical Storm Alex. Now that brings further impacts to the north of the UK, but for us you can see in more shelter. Yes, we've got this passing frontal system, but that'll just deliver some extra cloud through tomorrow and into tomorrow evening. But high pressure is trying to build, and it's this which will stabilise things into the weekend. So out there at the moment, still a couple of clumps of showers here and there. However, they'll be nagging for a little while longer and then fizzle away as the night wears on. And actually it's going to be beautiful out there under the stars. Bit by bit we'll start to lose that breeze as well, and temperatures holding up in their double figures pretty much across the board. So a far cry from those chilly nights of last week. Quite a different flavour to things certainly. And that's how it'll remain into tomorrow morning. So as soon as that sunshine gets to work, again a real boost in our temperatures. Notice we do have this fair weather cloud drifting in from the west, and that's actually ahead of that frontal system. So it'll just turn the skies a little milkier, hazier as the afternoon wears on. Of course, the best of the brightness still reserved to eastern areas as that comes in, and highs of around 21 degrees. But this time with less of a breeze, actually it'll still feel pleasant enough with a fine and largely dry day. That cloud then crosses in from the west later in the evening. Quick look then at the times of high water, and in Brighton tomorrow it'll be at 7:05 in the morning.
Valent sponsors ITV Meridian Weather.
Hello, summer. Piri sponsors ITV Pollen Count.
And stand by, hay fever sufferers, our first very high pollen levels over the next few days. This is, of course, as the grass pollen season really gets into gear. They'll stay that way right the way through into the weekend. Bye-bye.
And that is about it from us for the time being. In just a moment, though, of course, the ITV Evening News continues with Mary Nightingale.
I will have your late update this evening. That's just after 10:30. Hope you can join me if you can. From all of us here, thanks for watching. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.